called it this time the silence and the stillness, because I'm finding it was always a huge challenge for me to sit still in a meditation, to be in stillness. And I'm finally finding the stillness. And one of the directives that one of my teachers would always give, Mary Abrams, was rest in the silence of your own experience. And so now I'm finding that like I am able to find that place and rest in the silence and also rest in the stillness. But what I want to offer is that we're going to move in and out of silence and stillness and have some other ingredients into the mix. So I'm going to suggest that we start either seated or laying down. And for anyone in TV land, everything that I offer is only an invitation and a suggestion. You can do everything differently. It's really so that we can come into a deeper relationship with ourselves in whatever that means to you. So one thing I'm going to do is start with the humming breath. So just before we even come to the humming breath, maybe a couple of big, deep exhales, even shaking out whatever came before, coming into this, letting go of whatever might be sticking on you or in you, right? Any moment of the day or any moment of the past year as we're in this new year. Just letting that shake off, slough off, settling into this moment. So we will move back and forth between micro movement, maybe macro movement, and stillness and sound and silence. And I want to say that you don't need to do it when I'm doing it. I might say things or offer things, and you might be on a different journey. That's totally fine. Oh, yeah, finding the silence and the stillness within all of the activity, within the movement of our whole system, right? We're never actually still. There's always the movement of our breath. There are always these flows, our blood flow, our lymphatic flow, information moving around our nervous system, both information that we feel and information that is completely happening without any awareness. So I guess in one way, also coming into our silence or into our stillness is also trusting that all of this stuff is going to happen wherever we are with it or without it. Without thinking about it, it can happen. Or if we think about it, it can happen. Well, let's start with the humming breath. So the humming breath can be any note. I like to play with my tongue in the space in my mouth, and I'm kind of listening inside my head. And I'm allowing my tongue to shape itself a little bit in kind of the horizontal plane, or maybe kind of, not this the horizontal, it's going up and down, it's widening and narrowing. And what happens is that inside my head, I can hear the overtones. Probably my earbuds are going to cut out the hum even, so you might not hear anything. So listening into the sound of your own body, the sound in your own self, with a sense of the vibration that's happening with that. So let's just tune into that for a few breaths, for a few minutes. We're not trying to have like an Olympic diver exhale, not Olympic diver, a pearl fisher exhale. We're not trying to take the exhale into infinity. We're just letting it last for as long as is comfortable, taking resting breaths whenever you need them. So what I'm noticing for me is that my tongue and my soft palate, like that overtone sound, is happening as I adjust the relationship between my tongue and my soft palate. And as I'm in there, I can really feel the vibration like right in the middle of my head. If you went right in, That's where I'm sensing that vibration happening the most. The other thing that I'm noticing is just how much effort it actually takes to make that hum. So while you're in there and you're feeling whatever efforting is happening, also see if you can relax into that. So there's no sense of, I have to do this and it's harder, but seeing if you can go, oh, I can just do this easier. Or you can let go of the sound altogether and you could just listen to the sound of your breath. Let's go with humming for a few more minutes if that feels okay. And inviting in this internal fluid awareness, this internal fluid motion. So we don't have to inhibit movement, we're allowing it to happen. So after you finish your hum, try to breathe in through your nose. That's going to increase the intake of the nitric oxide that's produced in your nasal turbines, which is a antifungal, antiviral, antibacterial, and it affects your endothelium, which is the cell lining or the blood vessel and vascular thin layer of cells that are lining your heart, your blood vessels, your arteries, your veins. So you can keep going with that breath if that feels good. And you can also take it in so that you're feeling into the spaciousness that's been created by that vibration. Like you may vibrate it for a while and then just stop and feel into it. So allowing yourself to sense into the absence of sound, the absence of the hum. And you can go back and forth with that for a few minutes. Also, allowing the movement in your body to be so free flow that it's not effortful. It's totally effortless. If anything's happening, it takes no effort, no energy. It's just easy and fluid, letting the fluid move your body. And if you can find where the vibration is, when it stops, when we're resting in that silence, it's not the absence of sound all around. It's just the emptiness of sound or the absence of sound happening in that place where it was vibrating before. And you may be interested in allowing movement to bubble up as you're exploring that sensation, the sensation of silence in your body. And maybe there's no silence. Maybe it's just imagining silence. Maybe you're just pretending that there's some silence. What would it be like if there were silence? And if that feels uncomfortable and scary, then just tune into the sounds that you can hear. So I'm starting to let my whole body come into movement. And then allowing the movement to arise as if it's completely effortless. There's no efforting, it's just happening, just allowing. And it's almost like within the slowness of that movement, there is stillness as well. Maybe it's just the stillness of my mind slowing down enough that I can really pay attention to this small movement, tuning into the micro movement. And the internal flows of energy and fluid that are happening within your body. Anytime you feel like you're working, just let go of that, let it stop. Come into stillness and rest, or come into silence and rest. With the movement, it's almost like you're allowing the movement. It's a weird spectrum of stillness, spaciousness, and motion, mobility. You may take time to pause in the stillness, or you may just keep moving, whatever feels good to you, really listening to your body, whatever feels the most nourishing. So the stillness isn't a kind of lockdown, it's more of a freedom. We could even think of it as being a moment of movement, a moment of stillness, or a tiny sliver snapshot of this moment, where for that very second, there's a sense of spacious stillness or spacious silence. Really inviting any tension patterns or even any thought patterns just to sort of melt away. And you're free to move as much or as little as you want to. Inviting all of your senses into the experience of being. Almost like you're suspended. There's no effort to hold yourself up, very buoyant within your own body. If your body needs to adjust in any way or shift to a different position, always feel free to let that happen. So we're not trying to lock ourselves like a fly in amber into like this locked pattern of stillness or silence. We're just trying to cull the little moments within the fuller experience that offer some relief and some release. Releasing the past and the future, just to be in this moment. inviting your nervous system to really soften. But it may be that there are some little patterns in your nervous system that want to come up and express. So you can express those patterns in a very gentle, soft way, in a kind way. We're not shutting anything down, but we're also not giving anything our 100% attention other than our sensation in this moment. Using movement to help us find a sense of stillness or spaciousness. And even using the sounds around you to come into the silence of your own experience, the silence within. And the bubbles of your thoughts, the bubbles of your emotions, the bubbles of your experience can bubble around, and it's fine. Just don't get too involved with the bubbles. Just notice them and let them be like champagne bubbles, just disappearing, moving away. Letting the flow of your animal body really take over. And also knowing that you can always, if your body starts to move or it feels like, oh my God, it's all happening and I'm not controlling it, bravo or brava. But know that you can always stop. You can always come back to something that's familiar if it becomes unfamiliar and scary. Right? When we start to shift our patterns or open up space for the new things, letting go of some of the old ideas or the old sensations or the old ways of being, it can be just destabilizing and make us feel uncomfortable. So if that happens, feel free to move, just stop moving, to look around, to come into the room or have a drink of water. Yeah, we want to offer our nervous system lots and lots of time to release whatever has been lodged in there since we were born, and probably since before we were born, right? So we want to be very generous with our own bodies, generous and kind. Letting go of the distractions and just coming into presence with yourself in this moment on the planet. If you have a lot of, oh, I have to, I should, oh, this thing, if that stuff's coming up, just see if you can invite it to soften and melt away. Giving yourself a few breaths of, I am exactly where I need to be right now. This is nourishing, or this is taking care of myself, or this is connecting to spirit, or whatever it is. Whatever it is for you, just allowing yourself to nourish in that way without judgment, without perfectionism, just being an organic creature in a living body, Ha. Finding your own stillness beneath any waves of motion, and finding your own silence beneath any vibrations of sound. Giving yourself permission to unwind whatever might be knotted up or contracted, giving yourself permission to let go. And allowing we have this nervous system with efferent and afferent nerves, right? Some nerves are going from our brain down to our body, and some nerves or some messages are coming from our body up to our brain. So as we're in this space, allowing the signals that are going down and out to quiet a little bit, and allowing the body signals back up to the brain to just have a little bit more space. I think they say something like 80% of the vagus nerve information is going to the brain and 20% is going away. Although whenever we're talking in percentages, I don't think the body is thinking in terms of numbers. So I always find that kind of funny, but some people like it. So thinking that the silence of your experience or the stillness of your experience isn't necessarily a literal silence or a literal stillness, but it's the ease of being in the moment, the ease of relaxing into exactly what is with spaciousness. And maybe there are moments, tiny points of total stillness or tiny points of silence. Allowing the animal fluidity of your body, the animal flows of your breath and your blood and your lymph, your cerebrospinal fluid, allowing them to have more freedom. You don't need to fix them. They're doing great. So just giving yourself this deep inner permission to exist with some freedom inside your body. Even for your bones and your fascia to have some freedom in the way that it shapes and forms, right? So that system of integrity, that structure, interrelated structure that helps us move and exist and takes form, has its own spacious, silent stillness, which is also highly, highly connected and alive. Yeah, I want to say like sometimes it feels like when you start to let go of all the little grabby things and it's like there's this free fall happening. So let yourself give in to that without trying to grab again. It's like, oh, free falling into the silence, free falling into the stillness, or free falling into the spaciousness, which doesn't mean lock yourself up. It means let go. So before we end, I want to add one more breath into the mix. And it's just sort of a thought of the breath. And what it is to think of is that you're going to maybe take a couple of deep breaths and then allowing yourself to breathe lighter. So you're still breathing into the depth of your body, but breathing with maybe a little less volume, taking the air in, but maybe hanging out on the bottom of the inhale or hanging out at the top of the exhale. That's the other way around. Bottom of the exhale, top of the inhale, hanging out there with a little bit more space without trying to fill up again. So slowing, maybe taking some spaciousness in the breath and also breathing a little bit less volume. So you're lightening it up. If that feels stressful in any way, just breathe however you want to. And we're not shutting off sensation with that. We're allowing sensation to really bubble up. We could say we're shining the light of our awareness on the sensation, which in a way sets it free. It doesn't have to lock up there. It can then move through. Micro movement or macro movement. Letting yourself hang out in that light breath for as long as feels okay. If you ever want to take a big deep breath, go for it. We're not shutting down thinking or movement. We're allowing it. We're just not focusing 100% on it. Let the little chatter be there, but don't give it all your attention. I have this funny image of just mining for these little tiny points of stillness or mining for the silly little tiny points of silence. But mining is such a violent to the earth metaphor. Harvesting, gathering, gathering moments of silence. And then, of course, they're gone immediately. Like we're picking flowers. So if you have lived through this in TV land, Congratulations. Happy New Year. Bravo. I'm going to end the live.